I popped these in on a crowded train the first time, cranked up the noise cancellation, and within 3 seconds the roar of metal on rails just vanished. It wasn't a gradual, it felt like someone threw a heavy blanket over the entire car, and I had to take one earbud out just to make sure the train was still moving. The first thing you notice when you pull the Samsung Galaxy Buds 3 Pro out of the case is how angular the stems are. They're not rounded like most earbuds. They're flat-sided, almost like metallic little blades just down from your ears. When you pinch them between your thumb and forefinger, there's this oddly satisfying rigidity, like pressing on a piece of precision-cut aluminum. Each bud weighs just 5.4 grams, which sounds insignificant until you realize you forget they're there after 10 minutes. The case itself has this transparent window on the top, and inside there are tiny blue and orange dots that tell you which bud goes where. It's a nice touch visually, but putting the buds back in is where things get frustrating. The stems are angled, and you have to align them perfectly with these narrow tunnels in the case. Every single time I went to dock them, I had to fidget with the angle. It never became second nature. The silicone tips attach with a proprietary clasp system that holds on way too tight. I tried swapping sizes once and genuinely thought I was going to tear the rubber. You have to pinch right at the base and pull with more force than feels safe. There's also this little LED strip Samsung calls a blade light that runs along the ridge of the stem. It glows when you dock the buds. I never figured out what it was supposed to communicate, and since you can't see your own ears, it felt like a feature designed for other people to notice, not me. The first time I played music through these, I immediately noticed how much bass there was without it sounding muddy. I was listening to a track with a lot of sub-bass, and I could feel the low-end rumble in my chest, but the vocals were still crisp and forward. The sound signature is what reviewers call V-shaped. Bass and treble are elevated. Mids sit a bit further back. For me, that bent kick drums and snare hits felt punchy, but when I switched to something vocal heavy, the singer's voice didn't quite sit at the front of the mix the way I'm used to. I ended up tweaking the EQ in the ad to bring the mids up, and that helped. One thing that surprised me is how loud these can get. I've tested earbuds that max out at what feels like 60% volume, but the Galaxy Buds 3 Pro can genuinely get uncomfortable if you push them too high. I appreciated that. I don't always want to blow my eardrums out, but it's nice to have the headroom when I'm on a loud street. The stem controls are excellent. You squeeze once to pause, twice to skip, 3 times to go back, but the coolest part is sliding your finger up and down the flat side of the stem to adjust volume. It's precise in a way that tapping never is. Compared to the previous Galaxy Buds models I've used, which relied on tapping the outside of the buds and constantly thought I was giving commands when I was just adjusting the fit, this is a massive improvement. It's not perfect though. Sometimes when I try to pinch the stem to pause, my fingers would slip off the angled surface. The prism shape looks cool, but it doesn't give you much to grip. It's not a big deal, but sometimes it does this little thing where I have to reposition my thumb mid-squeeze. When you scroll through the product page, Samsung really wants you to focus on the AI features. Live translation, adaptive noise cancellation, voice call enhancement, and sure, the adaptive ANC is there. But honestly, I couldn't tell much difference between that and just leaving it on the highest manual setting. What they don't emphasize nearly enough is the two-way driver system with this separate woofer and tweeter in each bud. That's the part that actually makes these sound better than most competitors. I also noticed they bury the fact that a lot of the pro features like the 24-bit 96kHz codec and dynamic ANC only work if you own a recent Samsung Galaxy phone. If you're pairing these with anything else, you're paying for features you can't access. I always find it interesting what brands emphasize and what they quietly leave out. After a few days, these became my default earbuds for everything, commuting, working at my desk, even just walking to the store. The noise cancellation is so aggressive that I started using them even when I wasn't listening to anything, just to block out the hum of my apartment. I live near a railway line, and I genuinely couldn't tell the trains were passing if I had music on. One thing I didn't expect to appreciate was how light they are. I've had earbuds that start to ache after an hour, but these never did. The fit is secure without being tight. I wore them on a run once and they didn't budge. Battery life was fine for my daily use. I got around 4.5 hours of continuous playback with ANC on and volume at about 80%, which meant I had to recharge them every evening. The case added another 26 hours total, so I only had to plug in the case every few days. You don't really notice how much it changes your setup until you go back to something else. I switched back to my old earbuds for a day and immediately missed the stem controls and the way these just erase background noise. The biggest annoyance is putting them back in the case. Every single time I had to angle the stems just right or they wouldn't sit in the charging slot. It's not a deal breaker, but something I kept noticing. Battery life is improved over the previous model, but 6 hours still isn't enough for a full workday if you're listening non-stop. I had to top them up mid-afternoon a couple of times. And then there's the ear clip situation. Changing sizes felt like I was going to rip the rubber clean off. One of those small things that only becomes obvious after a few hours, but once you notice it, it's hard to ignore. If you're the kind of person who prioritizes sound quality and noise cancellation above everything else, the Samsung Galaxy Buds 3 Pro is absolutely worth it. The bass hits hard, the mids are clever once you tweak the EQ, and the ANC genuinely made me forget I was in noisy environments. But if your day is mostly spent in quiet spaces and you don't have a recent Samsung phone to unlock the extra features, the $249 price difference may not be worth it compared to cheaper alternatives. These sound better than the AirPods Pro 2 in my experience, stronger bass, wider soundstage, and the stem controls are more intuitive once you get used to them. But Apple's earbuds have better battery life and don't make you wrestle with the case every time you dock them. What I'm left with is a quiet appreciation for how good these sound, mixed with mild frustration at the small design quirks Samsung didn't quite nail.